One of the reasons why, and we can just start now. I don't know. 3, 2, 1. Hi, my name is Joachim Moore.
My bad.
Dude,
my bad.
fix your tag on
What
your
is
hat.
it? Oh, my bad. There we go.
This is.
You can cut this in post. Here we go. 3.
We went. What's your name? What is your name?
All right. Hi, my name is Francesco. All right, I'm good. No, I'm not.
So his name's Francesco.
Francesco. No, it's I go by Checko for short. So just Checko.
Is that what? Okay. Anyway, hi. So this short film talks about essentially, in many ways, it's the culmination of the love for theater, kind of a darkish way of explaining our love for theater in a Phantom of the Opera, but more like a Phantom of the Black Box type of vibe, I guess. This space that we are using, it was for a play called Megrex and James, and we just started in Sacramento, so we wanted to make use of the space, even though we didn't get full use of it out of the play. This was a good way of providing a good opportunity to, use the space that we were given. And the space that we'll use in the future, this is a great space. The West Sacramento Community Center is a good spot.
Yeah, no, when we were using this spot for Megrex and James, Josh and I just brought it up. He brought it up that, this would be a really cool spot to do something else while we're here. And that's where we pretty much came up with the idea for the Black Box Story. We came in here ready to do the show, and boom, we just thought of something else that could be really awesome for this spot and everything. And the ideas just kept coming to it, and it just came to be what it is. And it was just kind of an awesome experience to be able to, in a sense, focus on 2 shows at once, focus on 2 things at once. We'd be rehearsing Megrex and James, and next thing you know, all right, we're good. Now let's start recording this other thing. And it just felt really cool. It felt very raw. It felt very short, but it felt also at the same time very important. There were moments where it's the things that I've learned is when you're in the moment as an actor, that there's nothing better. And that's kind of how I felt doing this, just in the moment, the lights on, it's like we're filming ourselves on stage again.
Right.
And that's something that I just love to do.
Right. One thing I learned, and we had a very potent month of art, just really trying to push art in general. One thing I learned and trying to push our art is that it doesn't matter the audience. You feel so good just putting your stuff out there and expressing it because it's part of your emotions. Art is part of your emotion. And so if you keep things bottled up and you can't find a way to express it in a way to put it out there, then it becomes suppressed inside, and you don't know what that could really do to you. It can make a person bitter. It can make a person violent. It can make a person not want to give their all just in life. And so I think this March, with we got a couple days left, the biggest thing that I learned, not only in doing this short film, but in just consistently creating, is that you have to consistently create. In order to remain solid within yourself and to remain, just to remain consistent, because that's gonna be what kind of keeps you solidified. But I'm grateful for this experience. What did you learn through your character, through Mark?
Mark. I learned a little bit. I think that you can find pieces of yourself in any character you do. It could be from seems like the most normal character or the most realistic in terms of what the setting is. Obviously some people might find it weird to be like if you're doing a sci-fi or some fantasy thing, but you can still find connections to that character, something that makes it real and human that you can relate to in some way. And I think, in this situation, it's like, you have this guy who really wants to make it and he really wants to put on a good show, and he's not confident in himself as an actor, but yet he wants to find that confidence correctly. He wants to learn and do the best that he can. And I think you can find that with so many actors. I think every actor really can relate to that in so many ways, because there's been moments where you feel like you're nothing, then the next day you feel like you're somebody.
What's that journey like for you, man, personally? What, not even as Mark, and I'll follow up, but just thinking about this as a conversation, what is that like for you? And I'll definitely respond, because there's a lot to be said on that topic.
Yeah. I think that when it comes to being nervous or being, you're your own worst enemy, I feel like, especially as an actor. I think that, a lot of times some actors don't want to watch themselves on screen or see recordings of them, doing their performances on stage. Some actors are like that, some are not. But I think that, especially when you're trying to make it in Hollywood or you're trying to have a successful career in general.
I was just laughing just really quick. I'm sorry. I just want to tell you this before I get out, because I was laughing. You were right. Some actors want to see themselves on TV films and some don't. I feel like, and I'm probably 100% wrong, but I feel like Denzel said he doesn't like to watch himself much on TV or films, or he'll only watch himself one time or whatever. But I was just looking at a little video yesterday when Samuel Jackson was saying he knows at least 1,000 people are going to see his films because he buys 1,000 tickets every movie that he does just to do that. And he says he watches his stuff all the time. He knows his stuff backwards and forwards, and he used to tell himself when he was doing theater, because Samuel Jackson started off on the stage just like Denzel, just like ourselves. He said he used to tell the actors behind the set he wished he could sit in the stands and watch himself perform. And I think about that stuff when you were saying that. You can go ahead, though. It's just kind of interesting.
No, it is. It really is true. There's so many other ones. I think some people don't even watch some performances they do. I think it was Gary Oldman that said there's one movie in which he just doesn't watch, but yet he's so good in it. I want to say it was True Romance. I could be wrong about that too. But there's a role he just doesn't want to see, like he'll switch the channel right on over, But at the same time, though, I think that like actors, we really are our own worst enemy, because when it comes to critique, it's one thing to get critiqued, it's one thing to hear from reviews and things like that, but really, like, you're your own worst enemy when it comes to auditioning, when it comes to being in that room, when it comes to really anything, because the sound outside may, chirp at you and it might not affect you, but when you are talking to yourself in the mirror and you're saying you can't do it or you're not that good, that hits you harder and hurts you the most, because that's what's going on in your head.
And that's why it's so important to just perform. And I have to learn this too. Do it and just like get it out of your mind. Just like do it and just be like, all right, that was it. Because when I just did, and I tell you this all the time, and I really truly think it's just because it was a big moment for me in life. But when I did the Criminals show, I could tell the professionalism I was around, but I could also feel myself trying to check myself, just like, damn, I do this, did I get this right? Okay, man, let me try, if I had just one more time to do this. And I think as we continue on in our career, hopefully long, prosperous career, I hope that I can do my bit and be like, all right, I'm done. All right, I'm all done. Okay, that was that. You like it, that's what you got. Because a lot of old veteran actors and actresses are like that in that space. So that's a good way to be. For this character, I explore a lot of dark personalities, right? And so I'm trying to understand how sacred the theater is. Almost like a J.K. Simmons kind of like what's that movie?
Whiplash.
The Whiplash kind of way, in a way, where I'm trying to deal with, and you hear it in the little monologue that I have, I'm trying to deal with all these problems as a child, from my childhood on up. Like, I don't want to give anything away, but just like all the stuff that I've been through kind of in that film, and then trying to suppress that through the arts, and in a weird way. And so I'm excited about this short film. I'm excited about part two. I don't care. Part two of the short film, they're going to have, no, I don't care. I give it away. But I'm excited about exploring this character a little bit more. And yeah, man, what else you got?
That's pretty much what I think I got. You kind of said a lot of it, when it comes to it.
Okay. Lastly, what do you think? What did you learn from this short film that you can carry into other films in general, whether short, whether?
You really, the thing that I learned, it was one of the shots that we talked about. There's a shot where, I come in and I sit in the back and I'm looking in the mirror, and you kind of have the camera angle like on the side of my face. And I think, honestly, when it comes to that scene, you got to be in the moment as an actor. The things that I've been learning is you really have to be in that moment when that camera is on and when it's action. You really have to believe everything going on, because sometimes it's hard because you have a camera in your face. You have this lighting over here. You have all these things going on. And there's so many things going on behind the scenes with the camera, the angles, the lighting, the sounds outside of the area, and you still have to be in that moment.
Right.
And I feel like in that scene in particular, I was in the moment so much more than maybe some of the other scenes that we did. But at the same time, I think you can see that that's a big thing. That's a big thing that you need to learn. Is you need to be in that moment almost all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be perfect. There might be days where you may not be in that moment, but every now and then it's gonna hit you.
Right.
When you're in that moment, it's gonna hit you when the camera's rolling.
Right.
And when that happens, that's when the magic works,
mm-hmm.
so to speak.
Yeah, and I guess it's really important to feel that as an actor, and obviously for what we do, tying this into our nonprofit, in the effort to teach kids what it's like to do film, and adults alike, what it's like to do film. Two things. It's important to know that the reason why it's just two of us here is just because it's just two of us that did this film, both the writing, directing, and putting the camera where it needs to be, both of us putting our hands in the pot to really put the effort in to make this film. And I think this is where Hollywood is going, the direction that Hollywood is going. Not two people making films, but being more independent, of course. And I think that's where it should go in a certain standpoint, because there's so many ideas and so many stories that get looked over because of the commercial stories that people feel like a lot of people want to benefit from, but people just don't really have more of a choice. They just want to go see, they just want to go out. And so that's a whole nother story. But aside from that, from a nonprofit perspective, and this is the last thing I'm going to touch on, from a nonprofit perspective, understanding our nonprofit and the social values around it. And this is something that we can think of, because this is a question I want us both to answer, because I haven't even thought about it yet. From a social value perspective, from a social aspect, understanding the values of life in general, what can one benefit from this type of movie, especially with it being in the horror film, psychological thriller type mindset? It's not a comedy, it's not reality TV. But what can people that are watching this, and this is a difficult question, what can they learn? What can we learn from this? And we can take a second. But what I'm starting to kind of think, I feel, if you don't have an answer already.
You can go first.
I think the urge to succeed is so important for some people. that it can kind of consume them. That's kind of what I'm pulling a little bit, but and I know what this story is about. But if I'm trying to take it from like a social cause aspect of understanding things, I do believe it is the freedom of art can free you from a lot of pain that you have in life. And that's what I'm pulling from this. And of course, with me writing it, I try to write these things as if I'm not in my body. I'm writing it and I'm looking at myself like, oh man, that's a good script. Wow, that's pretty good. That's pretty cool. So I try to have an out-of-body experience when I write this stuff. But I think, like, at least for me, and that's how I felt as a child, I knew like my art would free me, especially, you know, I'm from Wisconsin and my art has brought me this far, you know. I didn't come here to be a mailman, you know, so... And not in the psychotic form like this guy, like Valen, which his name is actually, I don't know, I don't think you ever even mentioned it, which is interesting as a character. I just call your name Mark. I could have went unnamed. But maybe, you know, maybe he'll be mentioned in part 2. But that's what I got out of that from a social aspect of understanding how art can free a person, and no matter what kind of previous struggles that they had. So,
yeah. I think for me, when it comes to what you can learn from this, I think really it comes down to, I think this is also the base of really any movie is really how far you're willing to go for what you want, how far. You know, Mark was trying to do whatever he could to be a better actor and to get to where he wants to be, to where he's asking the help from this random person who just ends up in his space, and then also kind of wants to throw him to the side, you know, because he gets the help from this guy who he doesn't really know, but he ends up trusting him, and then later on he's like, hey, you need to get the heck out of here once we're done. Like it's almost as if he just like wanted to take, you know, just what that person, you know, wants, what Valen has, and then just kind of toss him to the wayside in a way. When you look at
it's funny
how it looks like, because it's just like, why did you accept his help and then you're telling him to leave? But at the same time, though, like I do feel like that happens a lot. Like how far are you willing to go? This industry can be really rough, and you hear stories about people kind of like going over each other. You know what I mean? Taking from other people or copying from other people, putting it as their own. I mean, there's so many things. It's such a very interesting business, but it's definitely, you have to fight and crawl. And some people play rough and dirty, and that's kind of really what it is. How far are you really willing to go to get what you want? That's the basis of really a lot of films just in general. The main character's trying to get to something or do something, and there's obstacles in the way. And how far are they willing to go for that specific thing?
That's true. That's a good point. And you think about all the people that are in Hollywood, like the people that are kind of like a little, not like what one would deem as crazy, but very assertive and very like demanding of what they want, you know, in a way. And you can think about like all the struggles that they had to get, maybe just to get there, you know. And I don't know. It's interesting, but that's a very good point. And it's, you know, shout out to everybody trying to stick it out here in the midst of everything going on, family stuff going on wherever they're from, and they're still trying to, especially if you're transplants and you're coming out from wherever just to come to California to accomplish this, man, is tough. If anybody knows, it's tough. I know. Yeah,
it's amazing because even the people I've met in Hollywood, the people that I met auditioning and things like that, you hear the stories. And, you know, I'm from San Diego. I'm, you know, 2 hours up the freeway from LA and stuff. And you start to hear, oh, I came all the way from Texas. I came from Wisconsin. I came from Michigan, Ohio, you name it, so many places. And people are leaving their families behind. People are, you know, some people I've seen their parents in maybe years because they don't have the money to fly back out that way because they're working so hard, their 9-to-5 job, to just get that one audition.
Just that one.
That may or may not work out at all, you know?
Right.
And so you hear all those stories and you hear all that stuff. And again, repeating kind of what I said earlier. How far are you willing to go for what you want in your craft? You know, how are you willing to travel, 8 states away, 5 states away, just up the freeway? Are you willing to not see your family as much compared to other people?
Are you willing to be driven to the point as Valen?
Yeah.
Or does the effort that you give in Hollywood can it drive you to that mental point? Years and years of rejection, years and years of course there's trauma from other things, but you just never know in this world, and it's interesting.
And then when you look at what people do when they get the role, what they have to do before the camera starts rolling, what they have to do, whether it's transform their bodies, mentally get into this state, and you see why specific people win an Oscar here and there is because they go above and beyond. So it's not even just like the stepping stones to get to where you want. There's so much that gets involved because it's one thing to get to the audition. It's one thing to nail the audition. It's one thing to get the role. Then it's another thing to dominate that role on stage or in front of the camera and continuing after that. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of struggle and there's a lot of stuff that you have to give up and do. But again, like if this was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah, it's true. So with something like that, you think about, with a project like that, you think about what are you willing to do? What are you willing to, and not obviously, not maybe in this spectrum of the film, hopefully in which you'll see, but are you willing to go above and beyond to succeed? That's pretty much what we're getting at. So thank you for hanging out with us and listening to us do this kind of commentary on this upcoming film. We're really excited about it. We're excited to throw it in a couple festivals, and we're excited to show it in a few places. So I'm Joachim Moore.
I'm Checko Valenti, going by Checko.
Thank you so much for hanging with us, and we'll see you later. Hey, stay creative. This is the Inner Circle Art Society. We are art for the people.